Дякую, я рад вас видеть сегодня. Но я тоже нужно говорю по-английски, но иногда я говорю по-русски. И украинскую мову чуть-чуть. Но попозже я изучаю украинскую мову. Сейчас русский и английский самое главное. Okay? Разумел английский? You understand? Okay. Oh, slava Boga. Okay, it's good. I'm really glad to be a guest here. As our friend said, I was a professor for 30 years in the United States at the university. And the best part of my job is in the classroom with the students like you. I count it a privilege to be here, especially in a foreign country. And thank you for your attention. I have taught all across Ukraine, from Lviv National University, Lviv Institute of Management, taught in Odessa Economics University, Chernivtsi, Vinnytsia, Ivano-Frankivsk, Rivne, Zaporizhia, Donetsk, Yalta, Cherkasy, Kiev-Mogilyansky Academy, Shevchenko University, KPE, Kiev Polytechnic, Kiev Trade Economiczny и много тоже. So, я знаю украинский студент, очень хороший. Okay? And I want to say one thing here. You know, Ukrainian talent, the student talent, is equivalent to United States talent. It's true. But our students just have more opportunity to develop. But the talent, academic talent, it's the same. Some of my best students in Kiev worked at Procter & Gamble, then took another job at Nestle's. Now they're hired in Germany in Nestle's. Another student became one of the top accountings at Ernst & Young in Kiev. Now he's chief financial officer for Sushi Ya. And other students, they do just fine if they get opportunity. So I want to make sure I communicate that with you all today as we go through the talk. All right? Rozumil, понимаешь? Может больше, громко? You can hear me in the back, okay? All right, great. So let's go ahead and talk about what I'm going to get into what I'm going to talk about. And it has to do with history of the United States. And this right here, you all are living it, you know it. In 1991, Ukraine became independent as a gift. They didn't have to fight for it. It was given. And now, 25 years. Фу, это долго, да? Это начинается лучше. 25 лет. Нужно будет Украина. Хорошей, нужной жизни, возможностей. Без коррупции. Потому что коррупция – это ваша жизнь будет. Bandit. Нужно. Stop. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the United States, начинается, beginning. And in particular, the influence of Christianity on the setup of the nation. Setup meaning Constitution, Declaration of Independence, educational systems, and so on. And when I teach, especially if I just get one time with a group, I definitely want to tell you the most important point first, then I will develop the lecture, and then at the end I will tell you, okay, this is what I told you I was going to tell you, and now I'm telling you what I told you I was going to tell you. Rosamil, you got it. So, when you leave here, at least you remember one thing. It's my time, it's your time. It's very valuable. So we don't just sit here like a mannequin. You understand mannequin? Yes. No. Это не хорошая идея. Только один жизни, один времени. So, here's the main point that I want to get across. There's the outline, but we'll come back to that. Right there. That the founding fathers of the United States, the people who helped discover the United States, set up educational systems, set up the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, their main focus was liberty and freedom for the people. And they recognized that liberty and freedom isn't just something that happens. It requires fertilizer, it requires water, like pomidor, огурец, арбуз, лук, вообще. Нужна вода и нужно хорошей земли. Понимаешь? Liberty requires the same, and what it requires is the morality and virtue from Christian faith. Not from other faith, from Christian faith. That's what their belief was, and how they set it up, the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, and yes, university systems, education. So we're going to go through all that. That's the main point, right there. Okay, I hope you would remember that when you leave here. And I'll go through all the documentation of how this can be said, and then I'll remind you at the end, we'll have a breakout session for discussion, some questions, and we'll let each of you share a little bit, response to the question, and then I'll close it at the end, okay? So that's how we're going to go. Now, as I talk about freedom, in any language, one word can mean something different to different people. And so, two people can be using the same word, and we say in English, two ships in the night. If you're on the Atlantic Ocean or Pacific and there's no moon, timno. Okay, ocean. And two ships can be very close, and they don't even see each other. So I want to talk about freedom or liberty in two contexts here. One is in social, civic, or government context, and then the other one is a spiritual or personal, individual context. And also, when I like to define a term, I think it's important to define what it isn't on the negative side, what it is on the positive, so then you have a boundary around what we're talking about. What do they say? Granica? Boundary, yes. Borderline. It's очень важно, right? So, in terms of government and civic or social context, if there's no freedom, it means that the government is punishing or heavily restricting speech, expression, or assembly, peaceful assembly, or thought, or churches. They're restricting it. They're imposing. It's not freedom. Right? Or perhaps the government is making so many bureaucratic papers to even start up a business. It's not freedom. Okay? It's oppression. And then you have graft and bribery. It just sucks the energy out. Okay, that's not freedom. And then also not permitting private property, ownership of land, zemli, and also not permitting guns. Okay, it's not freedom. All right. On the positive side is if you say, or not say, but if it's the situation where I can speak what I want, and when I walk outside, nobody's going to hit me or punish me or push me down the stairs. You understand what I'm saying. Or you can go out and have outside expression of your belief about something as long as peaceful. You're not hurting anybody or damaging anything. You can think what you want, and a teacher won't lower your mark. You understand? You can write a paper about something, and maybe it disagrees with teacher, and teacher will not give you 2 or 3 at the blow, all right? So you have freedom there. And then your church, you can go to a church you want to go to, and you're not going to be punished at work or at university or in government just because you go to the church. Now, punishment takes on different forms, right? Maybe some people, they don't overtly punish you, but they may say, we don't give you a job because you go to. That's not freedom, okay? And then, of course, business. Leave the people alone. Let them do business. As long as they don't hurt other people, let them do it. No bureaucracy, no. And private property and guns used appropriately. Now, you know, when I was 7 years old, I started my own business. Little business. Я продаж компот. Это наша Kool-Aid, okay? Может быть, 5 гривен, а друзья делают 3 гривны. О, кошмар, я должен делать 2 гривны меньше. Разумел? Это competition. Или большая стакан, лучше, okay? Also, I shovel snow, $1, or maybe big job, $2. I sold hot dogs, popcorn, Coca-Cola. No government, no bureaucracy, no. Когда я был 16 лет, я покупал первую машину. 16 лет. Только я купил бензин, я не папа, мама. И только я делал insurance, не папа, мама. Хороший, это freedom. А друзья тоже, не только меня. Other people, my friends, I'm very happy about it. So, no bureaucracy, no. Let people desire, experiment, try, and you can then have vision going forward. It's nice. Okay? Now, on the spiritual side, individually, look at that. No freedom for me personally or for you personally is if I'm behaving wrongly, stealing, hurting some people, being very greedy, addictions to alcohol or drugs, pornography, or immorality, cheating. Oh, it's not hard to do those things. It's so natural. It's like water going downhill, right? But if you or I participate, we become slave. Eventually, it'll be a slave. We have a phrase in English, what goes around comes around. Do you know what that means? Yeah. If I roll a stone, it will come back on me. Okay, so I be careful. I become a slave, all right? And, of course, bitterness, cursing, vengeance, carrying grudges, being hateful, those will all, in time, make me a slave, personally. It will. Whereas on the positive side, I live right, honest, tell the truth, treat my neighbor as I want to be treated. I'm giving, generosity, not just taking. Love, that's all of it, right? Любовь, самое главное. Любовь, правда любовь. And then purity of behavior, honesty, kindness instead of hatefulness, forgiveness instead of joy, instead of grudge, and courageous instead of being coward. Oh, it's free. The fruit of that is good. It comes back. The fruit of the other is slave. I'm not free, really. I think I'm free, but I'm not. Time will show. Time will tell. Okay, so that's the personal versus civic. Everybody okay on this when we talk about this? So now I want to start real quickly. I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but you all know the map of the United States very well. But I grew up here in Oklahoma. Here's Texas, okay? And I was a professor here in Ohio, near Cincinnati. Actually, you know, Cincinnati is sister city with Kharkiv. Это дружба народная. Это правда дружба народная. Yes, we're a sister city. And I was professor 30 years here. I studied here in Ames, Iowa. This part of our nation is very much like Ukraine. Kukoroza, pszenica, soya, holodna zima, bolshaya snik. Это очень похоже. Что? Yes, there are some agricultura plants here, okay, over here in Quad Cities. Our big combines, you've probably seen them. John Deere, you know John Deere combines? That's out there in Iowa, so it's very much like Ukraine. I studied there for 5 years in statistics. So anyway, the three missions I want to talk about in discovery of the United States. Columbus, he came here 1492 from Spain. The British came here 1607 with Jamestown. And right up here in 1620, the Pilgrims came. And all of them, when you look at the statement of their objective, by the way, as I'm sure you've probably learned, writing down things that you intend to do is very helpful. Because if it's on paper, the only way it's going to go away is if you erase it. It's not just, oh, I didn't really think that, or I didn't really say that. No, there it is right there. So on the mission, they wrote down the mission, and in every one of those, the main tenet of the mission was to promote Christian faith, Protestant Christian faith in the New World. All right? That's very important because we're talking about Christian influence on formation of the United States. It started right there. Now the Pilgrims, I'll talk more about them a little here. It was very, very cold, and they landed in November of 1620, and there was 100 people on the ship. And they stayed in the ship the whole winter. And in springtime, only 50 survived. Half of them died in the ship. It was so cold, not enough food, bad conditions. But what? They wanted freedom of religion because the British were enslaving them to the state church. And the Pilgrims didn't want that. So they came as private, whereas the other expeditions were more funded by the state. So at the end of the year, the Indians helped them. They befriended the Indians. And in the fall of 1621, they gave thanks to God for his care, and they also gave thanks to God for the Indians' help. And that's commemorative of the first Thanksgiving in the United States. It didn't become an official holiday until 1863 with President Lincoln. Okay, so that's kind of the big idea, just generally. I'm being very general, but we got other things I want to talk about the discovery of the U.S. And then in the 1630s, the Pilgrims realized that now the young kids are now young adults like you, and they need to be trained to be effective citizens and leaders in the new world. And they set up a university. Does anybody know the name of that university? Harvard University, 1636. And the original intent, written in stone, not just me saying it, it's still on Harvard University, is to train the young people to be Christian ministers so that the Christian church will be led by informed, articulate, intellectual, and understanding men and women. All right? Not just how to make money or how to grow crops, that's important, but how to be a real Christian to really lead a life honoring to God. Because life is like a circle. Inside the circle is a smaller circle, how to make money, do the profession. But that's not all of life. That's just part of it. And if we think that's all it is, we're missing out on a huge percent of what's going on or the opportunities we have. So the Pilgrims realized that and established Harvard University. They were required to study Bible every day. They were required to pray and go to worship every week so they would be effective Christians in society. And then in the early 1700s, another university began, Yale University. By the way, the original slogan for Harvard was light for Christ in the church. Light for Christ in the church. Yale began in the early 1700s, and they had their mission as light and truth for Christ in the church. And they had a very similar mission of training up young people to be informed, strong Christian in belief and in behavior. And then later, University Princeton began with a similar mission. You know these three universities, right? They're prominent, worldwide respected universities that began committed to Christ, training young people to be Christians, not just as a festival or a holiday. I mean, coming to Kiev last night, I was talking to one lady, very nice lady, and she told me what she believed, you know, the kind of religion she believed in, and she goes, but it's not serious, I'm not really. So it's just kind of a label, is that right? Yeah, it's just a label. At least she was honest, all right? But these people weren't just a label, it was from the heart, and that's what Christ intends anyway. Anything with a label, it doesn't cut any mustard. Do you understand the phrase? It doesn't impress God at all. Faith is what impresses the Lord. So that's what they were trying to equip the young people there with Harvard, Princeton, and Yale. And, that set the foundation for universities in the U.S. In fact, in Ohio, right here, there were originally 40 private universities. Private, not state, but private. 38 of them had their original intent to equip and promote the Christian faith with the young people. Committed to do that. And Miami University, where I was one of those, okay? And it became a university in around 1792. It really got started more around 1825. And from 1825 to 1887, every president was a Christian pastor, Protestant pastor. In the 1830s, one of those presidents wrote the first book for children to teach them how to read and write English, and also how to live the Christian life, right and wrong. And there's about over 100 million of these copies made of that book, used all over the U.S. in our schools, and even today it's used by some families to teach their children how to read and write and about Christian behavior. Not just read and write, there's more to it than that, right? Yes, there is. And this fellow wrote that book, and there's a nice pymetnik, you call it, like your Shevchenko pymetnik. We have pymetnik William Holmes McGuffey on our university campus. It's very impactful to society, not just diploma, but made a difference. And there's a big difference in that, right? And I know all of you want to make a difference, not just get the piece of paper. Yes. There's a lot of people can stand in the stadium and point fingers, but the person out on the field that falls down and gets back up, I salute them. And when your mother brought you into the world, she wanted you to be a participant, not a spectator, don't you think? Yes. Sammy Glavny. Okay, so let's keep going. So I've talked about all this stuff, and we went through this. I pretty well covered that. Now I want to talk about capitalism, okay? Adam Smith, have you heard of Adam Smith? Okay, Wealth of Nations, you know the book? You may have heard of it. I'm just going to give you 4 of the main points from the book. And before I talk about it, though, both in the U.S. and in Ukraine, when I speak about capitalism, I say one thing. It will never work if the people aren't self-restrained from within and have a generous heart going out. Otherwise, it'll become 2 or 3 people with all the wealth and everybody else barely making it with small opportunities. Yeah. So just saying, okay, we're going to do capitalism. Oh, yeah? How are the people? How are they doing? Because if the people aren't right, capitalism will become terrible. Terrible. So, his 4 points were, number 1, management's got to be good. Management must understand the employee's strengths and weaknesses, and don't make an engineer go out there and plant pomidor, ugaritz, luk, and kartoshka. Have the engineer make the bridge or make the building. Don't have the person who grew up on the dacha or on the farm come in here and make windows. No. Find the strengths of the employee, put them with a job that matches strengths. They'll be happier, they'll do better, the people around them will feel happier, everything works better. Morale, it's very important. Okay, it's very important. Surely you know your history better than me, Holodomor. Terrible. They took those farmers and put them to Siberia. Are you kidding me? And then put engineers to grow the pshenica and kukuruza? No. And then you have starvation, right? And there's other things besides that, but that's, to be really frank, that's crazy. I'm sorry to say it to you, but you need to know it, so don't repeat it. Yeah. Okay. Second point, keep the government out of business. Let the people sell Kool-Aid or sell hot dogs or popcorn or Coca-Cola. Everybody's happier, and the people can do it better than the government. Yes. The only thing government ought to be doing is national defense, drogi, roads, bridges, big transportation, justice system. You got me on that, right? Okay, yeah, government needs to do that. I can't do that. You're not going to be able to do that. We need the whole collective group to do that. But don't suffocate the business. But you see, if the people in business don't have self-restraint and generosity, they're going to steal from their own people, right? Or they're going to oppress them. Or they're going to go out and say, okay, we're not going to pay you for this month. We want the product. Oh, God. Can't do that. It's not going to work. It's going to steal your future and your children's future. It has to stop. It starts right here, right? And then the third point that he made, I'll scroll down here, that people on their own will find a path that matches their interests and abilities. Don't tell the person when they're 16 years old, you're going to do this job. I mean, the government should not be doing that. You choose it. Don't you think you can choose your profession better than Kiev? I think so. I can choose my profession better than Washington. I don't want Washington telling me what my profession is going to be. How can they know? It's too far away. Same with Kiev, right? And so that's what he's saying. And then finally, the strength of the nation, he says, is not in the gold or the money. The strength or wealth of the nation is in the talent of the people. It's the talent and the skills of the people. And that's what I mentioned at the beginning, that I've taught all over the nation. I know Ukrainian talent is just the same as American talent. But ours have been developed much more. Much more. And you can be developed, but it's just harder. Hopefully, as the years go by, the arena that you live in will make it easier to develop. The computer helps a lot because at least you can have access to information if you choose. Now, you got to choose. And I'll include me too, we have to work. But at least now, information is more readily available if you really want it. So that's the 4 points he makes in Wealth of Nations. I challenge you to read that, study that. It's about capitalism. It's intertwined with Christian faith because Christian faith restrains from within and promotes generosity to others. And capitalism works good there. Pay the person a just wage. If a person produces really good, pay them more. If they don't, pay them less. If they keep resisting, sack them. That'll give them motivation to do better next time. Don't just keep them on just to keep them on. That's not nice to them, and it's not nice to the person who will do a better job, which will make more opportunity for everybody. But that hits a lot of resistance, you know. I was speaking on television a couple weeks ago in Ivano-Frankivsk, and I'm going to get into this, but it's related to what I just said about cheating. And the interviewer said, well, how do you deal with cheating in the United States? So I said, well, first of all, we make the students put a piece of paper over their work so the neighbor can't see what they're doing. Second, we move them to different seats so they're not sitting next to their padrushka or druzia. You understand that? And third, I walk around and I look at what they're doing. And the interviewer says, oh, your students must not like that. Oh, no. The students who do right, they like it a lot. You know why? Because I'm protecting their future. I'm protecting their future. And the societies also, think about this. I know, I don't know for sure this place, but I know in many universities in Ukraine, you're permitted to take exam 3 times. Is that right? At some universities? Maybe not at some. Okay. In America, 1 time. That's it. Once. Here, 3 times. Okay, the best students, 5 first time. The others, they've been drinking, they've been sleeping, they haven't been coming to class, no study. They ask, what were the questions? They ask people, they go around, find the questions. So on the 3rd try, they get a 5, and you got a 5. They just stole your opportunity. You follow me? Okay, now, the person that got a 5 but really didn't earn it, they become a doctor. You have a problem on your left kidney, but they operate on your right kidney. Do you want to go with that doctor who cheated? No. You see how it comes around? Do you want that person to be the pilot of your airplane? God. No way. And furthermore, it steals from the person who's the cheater his future. It steals his future. He's not going to be happy inside. He's going to be miserable. And the people around him are going to be miserable, and he's going to damage everybody. So it's got to be protected at the university, definitely. Even, really in the scola, because the children are learning that no matter where it is. If it's in the U.S. or if it's here, if they're going to be cheating, they're learning it. It's got to be stopped for their betterment, for your betterment, for the ones who are doing right. Right? I mean, that's kind of what he's talking about here. The talent's got to be developed. Okay. So now we'll look at some comments about business. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here, but Benjamin Franklin, he was one of the founding fathers. So you can read the Ukrainian, but I'll just read the English. When people find out they can vote for money, in other words, vote for a candidate that's going to give them money, it's over. The society's about to crash. All right. Give them money, I mean everything's free. That just kills incentive. And a lot of people are going to waste it. If you got to pay for it, you don't waste it very long. I don't waste it very long. If I know it's my money that I'm paying for the university, I don't miss my class. I don't lose my book. You understand me? Because it was my money. And by the way, speaking about money, here's a kind of a difficult word. Maybe you all are up to par with this, but the word congealed. Anybody not know what congealed means? Everybody's okay on that word? Congealed? Like your blood, like if you cut yourself, I cut myself this morning, and the blood, it congeals, it becomes hard. But it's blood, but it's a different form. Well, money, according to this fellow, Ravi Zacharias, who's a well-respected philosopher, he says money is congealed life. Somebody had to work for that 1 hryvnia, or 20 hryvnia, or 100 hryvnia. That's why I don't see it so much in the U.S. because things are kind of hidden more there, but you know, in other words, I've never seen a machine gun in my town or in my city. I never saw that. Here I see it a lot. And I watch those cars, those green vans, 2 guys, real quick, a big helmet, machine gun, they're taking a bag. They go in, come out real quick. Well, it's money. But money is very, very valuable, and that's why they have the machine gun. It's very valuable because it's life. It's somebody's life, okay? So that's what he's saying here. If we're just going to give it away, it's over. I think you understand what I mean. Again, here, George Washington, our first president, said, look, if you just keep printing money and money, 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 it's going to kill the country. All right? It's going to kill it. Inflation. When I was here in 93, 5% inflation a day. Oh, koshmar. I had a huge wad of stuff in my pocket. What was it, Copex or something like that? Is that right? Woo. It's disaster. And by the way, this is in 1800 now. This is not yesterday or last year. You know, when are we going to learn? I include America in it. You know, since Obama became president, he accumulated more debt than the whole United States accumulated since 1776. Kajmar. Yabayus. Yabalel. Unashis novi president. Sludusi asin. Yahachu. Okay. Yani Machu. Debt. No, stop it. Stop. It'll destroy our country. Okay, so Thomas Jefferson says we must not let the leaders load us up with perpetual debt. And if we do, how are they going to pay for it? Make me pay for it with taxes. And maybe all that money was wasted. And then I got to pay for it. And I'm all for helping those who need help, as long as they're trying. But I don't like helping people who aren't trying. What's going to take for them to get up and try? Then we help them. They want to take it all from me. And I did honestly, and I worked hard. That's what he's saying. It's Thomas Jefferson, back in 1800, okay? And then, here's one, good one. Thomas Jefferson also, essentially, he's sabotaging socialism. You know, sabotage, exploding the myth of socialism. Margaret Thatcher, former Prime Minister of England, Veliki Britannia, she said, the problem with socialism is we always run out of somebody else's money. We're always running out of the other person's money. Yeah, that's right. And what he's saying is here, look, people own things honestly of their own skill. Don't blame them. They did good. Just because the other person didn't study or didn't come to class or didn't get a book or shouldn't even be in the university because they cheated to get in, don't give them a path. No way. They need to wake up and find their path. Defend those who are doing good. The whole nation will be better. That's what he's saying here, right? That's exactly what he's saying. And then on the positive side, as I mentioned earlier about the role of government, and that now what he's saying here, this was in 1804, essentially is to protect people from people who are going to harm them. All right? And do it frugally. Frugal means wise use of money. All right? And it shall restrain men from injuring one another. Now, as I told you, I brought over 40 Ukrainians to the United States. 40 over 4 years. The purpose was to help the administrators and teachers learn how to better run a university, learn how to improve course content, how to improve methods of teaching, and to establish and initiate new student life opportunities. Clubs, sports, reservation for rooms for different events. You understand what I'm saying, right? Okay, well, if everybody is hurting one another, or you can't trust people, you got to have a big police force. And many of the Ukrainians came up to me and said, "Oh, Dr. Marcus, where are the police? Where are the police?" I said, "Well, we don't need them. We police ourselves." Even right now, at my house in Ohio, I have Acura TL car. You know, Honda Acura TL. It's in my garage. The garage is not locked. The garage has not been locked since January 26th. And many times in my house during the day, my doors are unlocked. Now, when I was a kid, my parents, we would go to the store in the car, windows down. We leave the keys in the car, and we go into the store for an hour or two, and we come back. Biz problem. Nice. Even as a kid, even now, I don't do it, but if kids come to my house, they can sleep in the backyard at night. No problem. Just put up a tent and sleep. Nobody's going to mess you. No fences, no bars on the windows. I'm first floor, only first floor. Spokojnie, это удобно, это свободно. I like it. Okay? So we don't have to have much police. Now, we have to have more than we used to, sadly. It's because, getting back to what I said at the beginning, the people have to have morality and virtue from Christian faith. We still have a lot, but not as much. And the less we get, the more oppression, less freedom, more problems, the economy won't do as good, and so on. Everybody follow that? That's the main point. Okay, so now I talked about education already, so we'll go through. I do want to show you one thing. Let's see here. Maybe it's up here. Yeah, right there. That's the seal of Harvard University. There's 3 books on that seal. 2 of them are up. One of them's down. Why? The original founders realized to have effective learning and effective growth, we needed the wisdom from God from above. 2/3, 1/3 human reasoning. Human reasoning wasn't near as important as from the living God. That's on the seal. Now, sadly, they've got away from that, but they can't deny the history. They can't deny the history. You understand what I'm saying? It's there. They don't like this at all. Because why? It brings the light of day into their darkness. So I talked about Yale and Princeton and all this. Okay, and about Miami University. I will say another thing about Miami. On many of these universities, including Miami, they put Bible verses on the building to remind the students what's most important. And at Miami University, to this day, in concrete, not in painting, not in metal, in concrete, it says, "You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free." That's the words of Jesus from New Testament, John, Rosedale Voisim, chapter 8, verse 32. And in the context, what's happening there, Jesus was talking to the religious leaders who weren't Christian, and they didn't like him because he was shining the light of day into their selfishness, their greediness, their power control. They wanted to control people. They wanted to give them freedom. And Jesus said, look, you believe in me first as God. Second, you follow what I'm saying, and you shall know the truth, and truth shall set you free. Free from what? Penalty of sin in hell and power of sin to control their life so they wouldn't be free in their spirit. He just hit them really hard right there. Now our universities have it on their libraries. I like that a lot. Okay. Even though not all of our universities are following it now, but the history is there, which really gave us a good foundation. Okay, now how about the Constitution and Declaration of Independence? So here's what one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence said. Dr. Benjamin Rush, he was a medical doctor, he said the only foundation for useful education in a republic or a nation is to be laid in religion, capital R. And when they used religion in that context, they were talking about Christian faith. You can see all the different letters that were written that refer to that. Without this, there can be no virtue, and without virtue, there can be no liberty, and liberty is object and life of all republican governments. 1804. 1804, okay? And this is at the Continental Congress where they were getting ready to set up the Declaration of Independence. Okay, sorry, this was in the Declaration of Independence. And this was in, let's see, 1779. Okay, so this was after Declaration. They were doing the Continental Congress. And the fellow who wrote it was Samuel Huntington. He was president and signed the Declaration. And he said the following. He said that God would grant to his church, so this is clearly Christian, and the plentiful effusions of divine grace, and pour out his Holy Spirit on all ministers of the gospel, that he would bless and prosper the means of education and spread the light of Christian knowledge through the remotest corners of the earth, that God would be mercy look down upon us and pardon our sins and receive us into favor, and finally that God would establish the independence of these United States upon the basis of religion and virtue. That was president of the Continental Congress and signer of Declaration of Independence. That's in writing, documented. That's fact. Our founding fathers were dominated by people with this worldview, and based on worldview, it dictates action, correct? And appropriate standards consistent with the belief. Now, we've never been known as Hindu or Buddhist or Islamic nation. Everybody okay on that? Never. U.S. has always been known as Christian nation. It doesn't mean everybody's Christian, and it doesn't mean the government makes us Christian. But it means that the founding fathers in the document used Christian principles and Christian faith to set up how the country is going to be run, if you may. And freedom and the importance of Christian faith in that context. And that's very important. Now, in our Declaration of Independence, it does refer to the Creator, not to evolution, but Creator. There's a difference, a big difference. It says, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. I like that. It kind of gets it down to the main idea in a brief expression. And this was the writings then of the Declaration of Independence to get us independent from Great Britain. Now here's signers of the Declaration of Independence. They were all, almost all were committed Christians. There were a couple that were what's called deists, not necessarily Christian, but they had a worldview similar to Christians. So we had Episcopal, Anglican, Congregationalist, Presbyterian, Quaker, Unitarian, and Universalist. That's more the deists, and Catholic. So there are 56. That's the data, okay? And then we can go to Constitution. 39 signers, 55 were in the meetings, and it was dominated by Christian. In fact, 70% were Calvinists or Episcopalians, which had to sign a commitment of their life to Christ. This wasn't any like a label like my friend on the train said. This was a commitment of life, and they were putting it all on the line. It was real, authentic. Okay, they would pay a high price. Okay, so here's the proportions of Christian people at the Continental Congress, Constitutional Convention, 1787, and it's all dominated by Protestant faith. All right, there's 2 Catholics here, right there. So, again, the data shows clearly that Christian faith had the strong influence on forming the Constitution. And I mentioned it. Now here's a word in 1787 from Thomas Jefferson. I'll just read the bold part. This is a very sobering comment. I really believe there's really truth here, but it's a tough pill. But Thomas Jefferson said, "The tree of liberty must be refreshed from time to time with the blood of patriots and tyrants. It is its natural manure," meaning liberty requires water and good soil, and it could be at the expense of a high price of war. Right? It's worth defending. It really is. Right? And there's whole doctrines on just war versus unjust war, which I'm not going to talk about today. But true liberty is worth defending. It's very valuable. It makes life so much better. And some peoples in this world don't like that, and they want to take it away. They just want to have it for themselves and not to share it. It's not going to work. Okay, now we also have Bill of Rights, and you're probably familiar with that kind of stuff since we're in the law school, all right, talking about legal types of things. I won't spend a lot of time here, but I'll just read off some of them. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, abridging the freedom of speech, press, right of people to assemble peaceably, and to petition the government for a redress for grievances. Now, have anybody here heard of the phrase separation of church and state? Has anybody heard that? Some of you heard about that, okay? If I said this in the U.S., boom, everybody would be up, and it would be like electric. Not necessarily good electric, okay? But Thomas Jefferson wrote that in a private communication. It's not in the Constitution. It's not in the Declaration. A lot of people think that. And he was referring to the fact that the government should stay out of the church, not the other way around. You follow me? not the other way around. The government needs to stay out of the church. And you can think back, the British were imposing the church on the pilgrims. It makes very much sense that they would mean it that way. Okay? And even in the United States, we have the 10 Commandments at the Supreme Court. We open up our Congress in prayer. We have a federal holiday of Christmas. We have a federal holiday of Thanksgiving. Okay? So it's there, and all those people in the United States who want to fight and oppose it, hey, get a life. That's what our country's set up for. Of course, we don't have a state religion, but we make decisions based on our belief, and we make policies based on our belief, if we have a belief. Oh, brother. Okay. So other amendments here, just quickly. There's no unreasonable search or seizure. You know about that probably, right? You've studied this maybe a lot in law. And you have the right to a speedy and public trial by impartial jury. Your right to be informed of the charges. Your right to confront witnesses, to compel witnesses to come to court. And you have the right to have your own counsel, not just assigned a counsel because that person's a friend of the prosecutor. Oh, you understand me, right? There's a lot of this scratch my back, I'll scratch your back. Have you ever had that in this country? Quid pro quo, we call it. It's not relationship. It's manipulation. That's what it is. Okay. And then Seventh Amendment, and it has to do with felony and things like that. And then you can't have any cruel or unusual punishment. All right? That's good. I mean, if you steal 2 apples, should you cut your hand off? No. It's terrible. You go to minor offenses like that to Islamic countries, that's what will happen. Or I speak out about Christian faith. That's not freedom. I don't want to live there. I don't want that. Freedom. Yes. Come on. I want everybody to have it, not just a few at the top. Okay, so those are about the Bill of Rights. Now I want to read it from George Washington's speech in 1796, and I'll just read the bold part. Well, I'll read all of it, because you can understand me pretty good. Of all the dispositions and habits which lead to political prosperity, religion and morality are indispensable supports. That's what I said at the beginning, didn't I? Morality and virtue, that's required for liberty. Otherwise, the tree of liberty will die. You have to have the morality and virtue. That's what he's saying right here, George Washington. Let us indulge with caution supposition that morality can maintain without religion. It can't be separated. That's what he says, and I believe that. Reason and experience both forbid us to expect that national morality can prevail in exclusion of religious principles. 1796. Oh, gee. 200 years ago, right? 220 years ago. Well, why doesn't the U.S. Well, we're doing okay, but we could do a lot better in the U.S., but we're doing okay. We had some really good starts. Now, some people say in the U.S., oh, in fact, I had a professor, where does it say in the Constitution about Christian faith? Where does it say that? I said, okay, I'll give you some examples. First of all, it talks about freedom of religion. So that includes the Christian faith right there. And it was really meant by the Founding Fathers, just the Christian religion. People interpret it differently now a little bit. But second of all, in the Constitution, you'll say, okay, after 10 days, excluding Sunday, such and such has to happen. Well, if it had been Islam, it would have said excluding Friday. If it had been Judaism, it would say excluding Saturday. No, it said excluding Sunday because of Christian faith. And then in another part of the Constitution, it says, it gives different dates, AD. That's after the life and death of Christ. And then it says, year of our Lord, AD. It's not Muhammad. It's not Hindu. It's Jesus. It's Christian. It's there. Undeniably there. Okay? This is intellectually undeniable. Then we have to deal with that morally. Not just kind of pass it by. Okay. We have some other quotes here. I want to read two more, and then we're going to break out and have some discussion, okay? And then each of you from your groups will have a chance to speak a little bit, and then I'll wrap it up. So here's this Dr. Benjamin Rush, He says that Christianity is the only true and perfect religion, and that in proportion as mankind adopts its principles and obey its precepts, they will be wise and happy. You can read it there. It says that a better knowledge of this religion is to be acquired by reading the Bible than in any other way. When I was your age, it was the first time I really read it. My life changed. It had to, if I'm going to conform to what it said. I'm very glad about it, and I hope it keeps changing. All right? I need to love people more, and I need to realize how much I was loved. And that made a huge difference. All right? You need to study it for yourself. That's part of being free, right? And then, and forgiveness is fantastic. That the Bible contains more knowledge necessary to man in his present state than any other book in the world. That knowledge is most durable and religious instruction most useful when imparted in early life. That the Bible, when not read in schools, is seldom read in any subsequent period of life. That was a signer of Declaration of Independence. And then I'll read one more quote here, because I've got so many, but we do have a little bit of a time constraint. Okay. I'll find it. Keep going, keep going. Where is it? Here we go. Charles Carroll, signer of Declaration of Independence. Without morals, a republic cannot subsist any length of time. They, therefore, who are decrying, that means putting down the Christian religion, whose morality is so sublime and pure, which ensures to the good eternal happiness, those people are undermining the solid foundation of morals, the best security for the duration of free governments. Charles Carroll, Declaration of Independence signer. So one of the founding fathers of the United States, okay? So before we break out and look at some questions I have for you, I want to, as I've been all over the nation, in Europe, and of course in the United States, you get in conversation, people say, well, what's Ukraine like? What is it like? Oh my God, I could spend a whole day talking about it. But I've come down to two responses. First, that it's like a dark night with some bright stars. The bright stars are the Christian missionaries, the Christians, and others, maybe they're not Christian, maybe they are, understand love and decency and honesty. Those are the bright stars. But there's a lot of dark. And you understand what I'm saying. And then secondly, one day when I was in Kiev in 1996, I was talking to my friends, and they were talking about always in September, Kartoshka, Nuzhna. September и October, осень. Бабушка, дедушка, семья, работа, картошка, кукуруза, вообще. Кукуруза вкусно, смачно. Киев, мне очень нравится. Силы, кукуруза, метро, бабушка. Горячий кукуруза, горячий лет. Anyway. Oh, and those little chemadons, they'll go right over your feet on the metro. Woo! That hurts my feet. You know what I'm saying? Those wheels? Yeah. And they don't give you much mercy. Anyway, so they were telling me, and they'd say, oh, Dr. Marcus, sometimes at the babushkas or even ours, everything's so nice, and the next morning we go and somebody stole everything. Oh, God, I feel so sad in my heart. Boilness serce. Well, the Bible says, a poor man's field produces a harvest, but injustice sweeps it away. That's the second point I tell people about Ukraine. Those people, those thieves, they must be punished. And they must give back to the people who are doing right. And those people who are doing right lifted to the highest point. And those thieves need to be punished, and they need to get back on the right road to help everybody else. Otherwise, it's stealing the future, and that gets back to the point. What was the main point? Liberty, freedom, the main aspect or the main foundation for a strong nation. But it costs and requires something. It requires the people have a morality and virtue from Christian faith to keep liberty growing and alive. So I just told you I'm telling you what I told you I was going to tell you at the end, right? So now I'm going to put some questions up here, and we're going to get in some groups, and you can discuss it, and then we'll have one person from each group speak, and you can challenge me on anything you want or ask me any questions or whatever like that, okay, as we go through this. And some of our friends here who help set up the lecture, they'll join you in the groups. And I think they're going to pass out a survey thing that they have other events like this. If you're interested, to invite you to come. They're a Christian club. And I was part of a club like that in college. It was very helpful to me. So I like to support those kinds of organizations in Ukraine. So let's get these questions up here. You want me to put them in English, right? Angliski? Ili ukrainska mova. Angliski. Here we go. Okay, so I'll read them, and then you can get into groups. Should freedom ever be limited? Why or why not? Is bribery wrong? Why or why not? How does this matter relate to your education? What is wrong with cheating anyway? What did many of the founders of U.S. say was foundation of liberty? That should be an easy one, right? That's the one thing I want you to remember when you leave here. How would you respond to people who say the Christian religion takes your freedom away and does not produce freedom and surely does not provide the foundation for freedom? And what about Jefferson's quote, the tree of liberty must be fertilized with blood of patriots and tyrants? And then what's the source of the standard for moral virtue? Okay? So now you're going to get in your groups. I'll just let you figure it out. And you want me to tell you which groups to get in, or do you think you can get your own groups? Okay, I'll tell you. So we'll take the first 4 here, the next 5, and next 4. So we got 3 groups here, right? We got 4. I will take 5 and 5. So 2 groups here, and we'll have 1 group here because some of you will spread out, right? So Vasya, you get the others. You can pick one of the questions or all the questions, whatever you want. It's up to you. You have freedom now. Don't make me run the show, okay? So you guys are in one, all right? So how about you 4 ladies? You 4 guys, you're smart guys, so you can come up with all the answers, right? So why don't we do you 5, okay? And maybe you 6 and you 3. You're in a group, all right? So you can start thinking about these questions. If you don't know the people next to you, now you get a chance to make a friend. Because it's the people next to you sitting to, you're going to be, they're wonderful treasures. You got to get to know them. Can you all read it okay? Okay. Maybe you go get in some of the groups if you want. Yeah. That's a good idea. You can read it from the back then. Whatever they want. But when you stand up, you'll just talk about one question, okay? But you can discuss all of them. Okay, why don't we wrap it up now? All right. So let me have your attention. So we're going to go to each group, and each group have one person stand up and just pick one of the questions and just kind of give a brief report. And then we'll have some time for a brief discussion, and I'll wrap it up. Maybe you have some questions you want to ask about. It can be about anything, but I want to give everybody a quick chance to say a few words if you want, because this is part of participation and get you to think about things with your friends. So you want to start on this side, my left? One of you all want to stand up and say a word about one of the questions? This gentleman will, okay. Go ahead.
I take first question. I agree with that opinion that the freedom should be limited in their cases when the freedom of one person infringes on the freedom of another person.
Okay. Does everybody understand what he just said? Yeah. Okay, that's been a very common response from other universities and in Kharkiv as well. Okay, thank you. Thank you for the group for that. Next group back here.
Yeah, some question. I don't know if you know this guy. So Max Weber in his book, Capitalism and Protestant Ethics, said that Protestant ways literally correspond to capitalism, capitalistic way of structuring economical system and society. So don't you mind the type of Christianity that developed in our region don't allow us to build in Ukraine the same system of values as you say have? So what's the point of this?
Okay, I think you're asking me a question, right? Is that right? I mean, that's okay, but that's what you're asking me, right? Let me repeat it if I understand you correctly. I want to make sure I understand you correctly. Are you asking me if the version of Christianity in Ukraine is not permitting it to develop like it did in the U.S.? Is that what you're asking me?
Maybe.
Okay. All right. Now, it's a very good question. Very good. And it's a very important thing to be thought about. Well, there's only one standard of Christianity. It's Bible. Okay. Whether it's in America or here or whatever nation. So there's one standard. Now, the closer the group of believers gets to what Bible says, the more likely the fruit will be of freedom. But the further it gets away, the less likely that liberty is going to work. I mean, I'll just tell you frankly. I don't mean this to be offensive to you. Do we have some cheaters in America? Yes. But not near as much as Ukraine. I mean, when I've taught, good gosh, I couldn't believe it. In America, half the class would be gone after the first exam because we're very strong against cheating. So there's one standard, but how well are we behaving? How well are we matching the standard? If we're not matching the standard, it's not going to work. That's what the Founding Fathers believe, and I believe that too. I mean, my gosh, I couldn't believe it. Maybe in a class of 20, I only had 2 or 3 that were doing honest on exam. The rest were looking or showing, I put my hand down because why? You're not used to that standard. So I will be forgiving at the first. But after that, I'll be very tough. All right? Like that lady on the interview said, oh, your students, no, they like me because I'm protecting their future. So I would say that there's one standard, and the closer the nation follows Christ, the better the nation will be. And that's for sure. So I'll let you make your conclusions to the answer to your question. Yeah, that's why I challenge each of you on your own study Bible. Don't rely on somebody else who has some title to decide for you. You decide. You study and think and learn from people you trust and then follow the path of the Bible. Love one another. I mean, there it is, right? Love Christ, love one another. Because love incorporates truth, honesty, respect, and so on. Okay, back over here.
Which was first and first sentence, and what is the first sentence? Should freedom ever be limited, or why or not? I think freedom can be limited. I think freedom, as for me, is some like a field when you can do everything. And freedom is like a gift from God. And you should use it in any way and more useful for you. And freedom, for me, is everything. For example, maybe now there are the American author, Jonathan Franzen, who wrote books, Freedom, and he talked a lot about it. And he gave different examples of freedom. And he thinks that it's the greatest destiny of people is the freedom. And we must use it as we want it. I think is the first. And discuss the Jefferson quote about how the tree of liberty must be fertilized with blood of patriots and tyrants. Sometimes country has problem, and problem related with their leaders, because they stand tyrants. They destroyed everything, the rule of law. They destroy laws. They destroy private rights, and people and patriots which really believe in their country, love their country, they need to push away the tyrants from their pedestal. And I think sometimes it has place. And it's very sad for me, especially we have such problem 2 years ago, and we need to do a choice, be with tyrants or be freedom. And I think it's an internal problem in some countries. But I hope our nations choose the right way and we push out tyrants, and I hope we really build a new society where be only a place for patriots.
Okay, thank you very much. It's very serious points.
May I disagree?
You can say something, sure.
Yes. I want to disagree with the first main of the speaker and to support the first idea. I think that our freedom must be limited. Yes, we can do what we want and freedom is everything, but think if every person do what he wants. There are no limits. So we will maybe interrupt in the freedom of other person. And if we speak about God and Bible, there are some commandments: do not kill, do not lie. There are already some limitations that we shouldn't do. And I think it's right to limit ourselves, and it's kind of showing of our also love. If you love for some person, maybe you want to do something in order not to hurt him. So there are a lot of limitations in our life, and that's right, as for me.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So,
Sure, sure.
it's the first time I say on this idea that some freedom must be limited. But in my life, says one interesting event, I read the books, and this book is Richard Bach. It has name Illusion, and he pushed me to interesting ideas about this, about freedom, about in which we do home, and he said that freedom can be limited, and I can agree with him. If you are a pure person, which love freedom, which love friends, which love a usual man on the street, you will do something bad for him if you are a really pure person. And if everyone in their whole will believe that everyone with us, we're really a pure, we're really honest person, which really want to get everyone, and we don't want to do bad thing that can destroy somebody, then the freedom can be limited.
That is how I limit my bad side of my personality?
No, it's your problem. It's your problem to destroy this bad side and build in their place where will be only a spare place to do something good. For example, God of your soul. It's my response.
Okay. All right, these are good points. It's clear that as a Christian point of view, from a Christian perspective, there's a standard of right and wrong. There definitely is. And I cannot, in the U.S., it's illegal to cry fire in a crowded theater because that will put in danger many people. If I can do that, I will be punished because it's hurting others. So from the Christian perspective, it's kind of like a river. Freedom's like a river. If you don't have the banks of truth and love, you have a flood. There must be the banks of truth and love on a river. Otherwise, it's a flood and disaster. You follow me? And that restraint, from the Christian perspective, comes from within. And if many people aren't Christian and they want to just do whatever they want, you're going to have massive police force to control everybody, to protect one another. These are good back and forth, and it's good to wrestle with it, but I wanted to kind of put that in a capsule, if you may. Okay? So let's see, who's the next group? Were we here? Did you all, no, you all need to go next, right? You want to say, okay.
Yes. Well, before answering our question, I wanted still to disagree with the previous speaker on his statement that there is no limitation and we are all very unlimited in our freedom. I have to disagree, happily, sadly, because we are put on, we have the limitations from our birth. So since we are born, somebody else puts the limitations on us. And when you say that you are the only person who can stop the anger, who can commit good things instead of bad ones, you know those are the good things because somebody else told you they are good and did the rest of the bad things. That means they already put the limitations on you. They said, you have freedom up to this point, the rest is bad. And that's how you know that you should do good things and not do bad. This is called reason. And the problem with the reason here is that people are not the same. So if everybody in this room and in this country and on the planet had reason, we wouldn't have to create the system of justice, the state, the government, because everybody would be reasonable enough not to commit the crime, not to steal, not to kill, and do some other things. Everybody would just be, thinking of cooperation. This would be kind of the kind of perfect socialism that was planned but never happened. So this would be impossible. Unlimited freedom is an impossible concept, and we are naturally born with limitations put on us by parents, by people we see in the streets, and then when we become smarter by the laws of the government. So this is only a theoretical concept, of course. I mean, you were free to say that we are unlimited in our freedom, but I mean, we're not.
Everyone has
Sorry.
their own ideas and their own world. And how he sees this world, says he do in this world. And I think everyone has their point of view. And I want to say my point of view, because I find them right my point, and I think I can do something useful for me and for other people thinking in such way.
Okay, maybe we can talk about it later. I'm going to get other
So
chances.
the question you had was about bribery?
Yeah.
Yes, that's the one we chose. Well,
Okay.
basically, was it a good or bad thing? Right?
Yeah, it says, is bribery wrong? Why or why not? How does it relate to your education?
Well, basically, it would be very trivial just to say bribery is bad because it's bad. Everybody probably sees it as a negative kind of thing. But I have a different view on this, and this is not my personal view. This is the one that one American professor shared when he also visited. He told us, look at bribery as an economical concept, as something bad, not to morality of the people, but to the economy of the state. When bribery takes place, and it's a common thing in economy, it slows down the whole state in general. I mean, everything slows down. The businesses, the private
individuals who do their own thing, sell hot dogs and everything. So everything gets slowed down, and no one, at the end of the day, no one benefits from this, from bribery. So it's not to say that it's wrong just because it's morally bad and it creates some mistrust and lie and maybe some other complication, but it's a bad bad virus to economy. So that was the point.
Okay, all right, thank you. Maybe this group now? Yeah.
First of all, my name is Anastasia, and that's all I think. And I have
Okay.
one question.
Yes, sir.
So it's about American students,
Mm-hmm.
which one have just one time to pass their
Yeah,
exam.
right.
So, but if the person have a fear about the test exam,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
for example, so and they make these mistakes, and what then?
What happens? Okay, her question is about, thank you for sharing and for your group. Her question is about the comment I made about take exam once, no 2 or 3 times. What if they fail? What then? That's what you asked, right? Okay. Now, in our system, we have, usually the students go to class like 15 hours a week. That's it. And when I say hour, I mean 50 minutes. So 15 50-minute period per week, which is, I think, a lot less than you all, right? Okay. Now, usually in that 15-hour-a-week period, they have 5 groups. We're not all in the same group. They're in 5 different groups. So 5 different subjects. In each subject, they may have 3 or 4 exams in one semester. Each of those exams they take only once. Now, if they fail one of those exams, they don't fail the course because they get the second exam on a different, new material, third exam, new material, fourth exam on whole thing. They look at average performance over the whole term. And if the average is low, then they have to repeat the course. And if they have many courses, their average is low, then they have to leave. Don't you think that's better? And less incentive to cheat, more reasonable. It's sweet reasonableness. Thanks for you all for coming. Sorry about the time. So let's see. Another group wanted to say something in the back? Right here with the man with the Nike shirt. I like that. I got Nike shoes.
To my mind, Christian faith is the source of moral virtue.
It's the source of what, maybe? What did you say?
Moral virtue.
Moral virtue, okay. Okay, well, thank you for that. Did one of the groups on the side here want to say any words? Okay.
We thought about the topic, what's wrong with cheating?
Yeah.
So our group says that cheating is one of the most very bad problem of our students, because let's imagine the situation when, for example, one student, it can be a law student or medic student, is missing lections, studies bad, and with the help of cheating, he passes his exams very good. So in some years, he became, for example, he gets a job that he dreamed of. It could be a prosecutor's job, or for example, a surgeon in
A doctor.
Doctor, yeah. So, and in some way, within some time, he will try to help some people. For example, if it's a doctor, he will be on the surgery with appendicitis, yeah?
Yeah.
Appendicitis, and with no any
Skills.
skills, yeah. He will cut off, for example, liver, but
Yeah.
not the appendicitis.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
with the help of his missing all the
Right.
skills, he will just hurt, so but not help another.
Yes.
So we think that cheating is very bad, because we are agree with your position that cheating is killing our skills, is killing our opinions and
Yes. Your opportunities. Your opportunities.
opportunities, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Did one other group over here, these young ladies, want to say anything? Did you want to say, everything's okay? Okay, we're a little bit short of time, so I think I'll wrap it up. I appreciate your interest, your engaging with me. It's very nice, and I congratulate you on your English. You know, does anybody know or not know about Alexander Solzhenitsyn? Do you know who that person is? Okay, so for those of you who do or don't, I'll just briefly tell you the story. He's a Soviet Union patriot. He fought World War II. He was atheist after the war. He realized the oppression of the Soviet system. He spoke up against it. He was put in Siberia for 7 years. He got out. He kept speaking up against it. He was put in Kazakhstan. In Kazakhstan, he had cancer. His friend was a doctor who used to be a Jewish fellow but had become Christian. The doctor operated on him to cut the cancer out. And while he was on the recovery table in the several days afterwards, he found out that the communists murdered the doctor. Nice communist friends. And Solzhenitsyn, after several days and weeks, reflected back on that Jewish fellow who had become Christian and told him how to become Christian. He became a Christian. And he got out, he recovered from cancer, he went all over the world speaking about Christianity and the aspects of Christianity, how it can improve a nation. He became Nobel Prize winner. He became a great patriot to help improve the Soviet Union and make it more livable with human rights and opportunities. And you know, he made a decision. How about you? Are you going to make the decision? Even though he was in that prison, he was free in his spirit, 100% free in his spirit from the power of sin and the power of hopelessness. He had great hope inside because of being Christian. And as I mentioned earlier, the Bible verse, you shall know the truth and the truth shall set you free. It set him free. It sets all Christians free. And as each person becomes free, they can make the nation free. Of course, my proposal is in the Christian context where we do have limitations, but that comes from within, not from a police state without. So I want to thank you for your attention. I think there's going to be a survey you're going to fill out. This organization, this speaking engagement was planned by a Christian club, which I very much appreciate. They have more activities involved and planned. If you want to be contacted to be part of that, feel free to sign it up, and they will make sure that you're invited and can be part of it. And I wish you the very best, so thank you for your attention.
Еще не уходите, ребята, еще.